Yeah, dangerous.
Okay. We'll call to order the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting for March 22nd, 2018. Start with introductions with down here.
Bill Daniels.
Troy Bollinger.
Sean Dessler.
Mike Mitchell.
Lisa Novak.
Chris Cook.
Karen Moore.
Roger Collertice. Phil Lewis.
Kristen Brown.
Okay.
And next is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Did everybody have a chance to review them? Any edits?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we have a technical difficulty on this screen here. Maybe we could have
My
the,
monitor's not on.
Try pressing the down on the right bottom.
It doesn't have the same buttons over there.
Oh, those are different, yeah. Third button in underneath usually. Oh, yeah.
To share screens.
Okay, that's fine.
that was it.
Sean Master said, I think. Wrote this thing. So what happens when they show up at the last minute? Who knows what's messing with my
There you
stuff?
go, Sean.
Look at that. Beautiful. Thank you.
Blue instead of orange.
Saves the
Then
day.
it went off again.
Well,
All right. Next up is citizen comments or issues not on the agenda.
It's for all.
We don't have any comment cards.
Okay. All right, presentations, we have the Latourette Park update from Karen.
So we'd like to bring up Karen Burig from the Latourette Park core team to give a presentation on Latourette Park.
Francesca's going to join me as well.
And Francesca Anton.
Good evening, committee members. My name's Karen Burig. I live in the McLaughlin neighborhood, and I am a Girl Scout troop leader, but I also am the chair of the Latourette Park core team.
And I've been with the Latourette Park core team since its inception too.
So I wanted to give you an update of the project that we've been working on. When I was putting this together, I realized it was about a year ago since we had been here last, and there's been a lot that's gone on. So my initial slides may seem like, may be familiar to you, but it does provide the reminder of all the different efforts that have been put into this. So Latourette Park is located at 11th Street and Madison. Many of you probably know the history of it with regards to, it was the first location of the, it was the location of the first swimming pool, but then it transitioned into tennis courts and a backboard in the early 70s. Since that time, there hasn't been too much investment in the park, and so a few years ago, I guess it was about 2.5 years ago, the Girl Scout troop kind of got together and said, hey, you know what, we'd like to see something different in this park. And they came and they talked to the city council and asked what was being thought about for the park and came here. And the city didn't quite know what should be done with the park, but they did know that some investment was needed. So the first thing that they did, and this was back in March of 2016, they held a party in the park to get information from the neighbors about what kind of activities they would like at the park to kind of get an idea of what was going on. And there was over 70 people that participated in that event. Following up from that event, in March of 2016, they actually received funds from the Community Enhancement Program and worked with a group called City Repair to host a weekend workshop. And at that weekend workshop, the participants participated in a variety of different activities, but they also came up with different mock models of what they thought would be good at the park. And everybody talked about that and kind of communicated with each other about what they thought would be neat. There was about 50 different participants in that event. And I think one of the key things that was an outcome of that event was the kind of evolution of the Ladderette Park Court team. The Ladderette Park Court team is made up of neighbors from around the park. It's made up of the Girl Scouts, and it's made up of representatives from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, as well as other people who are really interested in seeing change happen at Ladderette.
We should add that we also got the Phil Lewis and Jonathan Waverly involved from the outset. So they've been with us, a part of the team. They get all our communication, and that's been a really important part of our work.
Right. So the big outcome, besides the Ladderette Park Court team, was that we now had a vision for the park. It was very bold vision to be able to see new investment in the park. Also, we have a mission statement, and that's to create a gathering place in the neighborhood, have activities for ages, all ages and interests, have a place where people can be together with nature and sustainable living, healthy people, plants, and animals. It's an excellent opportunity for community building and revitalizing DC Ladderette Park for now and for future generations. And that's really what's guiding the work that we do now. We now have a really fancy, not just hand-drawn, but fancy map that we can then talk to other people about and get their input. So since March 2017, we've been very, very busy. We received another community enhancement grant to be able to do phase 1 of the park. And we've been spending quite a bit of time looking at that phase 1. We've been working with case students who are developing ideas for art that can be put on the fence. But really, most importantly, at least from my view, is that we were able to have a successful request from the National Park Service for them to work with us, their Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. And they've been working with us since fall of 2017 to refine that really pretty picture into more refined phases that we can start off with and really make some changes at the park. So they have developed 2 different draft options for that, for the phase 1. They did more public engagement for us. They held an online survey, which we really pushed out very hard to the neighborhoods. They've created a draft conceptual map that we're getting feedback on now. And then ultimately they will develop a concept plan for the park. So if you hadn't been able to participate in the survey, this is what has been going on. So they had 2 options, and the options carried many of the same themes, and that is keeping the area that's the tennis court kind of open and flat. One had kind of a smaller basketball court, and the other has a larger basketball court. Both of them had nature play areas. There was some differences with regards to the programmable space, but those were the 2 options that we got feedback on. There were over 300 people that participated in the survey, with 141 of them actually from the McLaughlin neighborhood. People said they'll use the park more if there actually were improvements in the park. There was strong support for the nature play elements. There was kind of a split between option 1 and option 2, but you can kind of see there's not a whole lot of differences. And then people liked the flat open spaces. They liked the basketball court. They liked the area up by the amphitheater. But those are some of the key takeaways. Did you feel there were other key takeaways?
No, that's basic. I think you're going to get to the rest.
Yeah. So I think the other thing that we've done during this time is we sat down and the Oregon City Parks Department really went out there and looked closely at the site, because we have, as Francesca said, we've been working really closely, and we're trying to create a place that works within the framework. You know, and we understand that maintenance is a really big issue and into the future, so we're not trying to create some place that causes unnecessary maintenance issues.
Or conflict.
Yeah, there you go. So Oregon City Parks went out and really looked at the site really closely, looked at our phase 1 and the things that we were looking at doing there, and they provided some feedback to us about what needed to be done. One of the big things is that there is going to be an ADA ramp that's going to be needed to be able to access the upper area where we have the nature play, proposed nature play site. There's a need for a swale for stormwater management in the upper area. All of this, there's a need for additional funds. We had our initial request to the Community Enhancement Program was for a project that would cost about $50,000. But there's definitely going to be additional funds needed to pay for the ADA ramp and the play structure and some consulting time. They did identify that a full basketball court could be put in the lower area. We talked a lot about the fact that the court needs resurfacing. And the project costs have pretty much gone up to nearly $200,000. Would you say that's accurate reflection? Okay. All right. So this is actually the refined phase one, the updated phase one after we've received the input up at, does this have a little pointer? I don't know. So the ADA ramp we're looking at actually goes here along 11th to be able to access. This here is the nature play area, and there would be a basketball court down here. We really, as a part of phase one, we haven't really talked much about the, this is where the eating area is up here. This right here would be some gathering space. But that's what's really being talked about. The phase one piece has to do with the basketball court, being able to put in the ADA ramp and the nature play area right here in the center. So since that time, really kind of what's next? We're taking some final revisions for phase one. We are thinking about, talking about kind of innovative basketball court designs. What can actually be done there that maybe reflects the history of the site? We had one of our members who is an artist. We kind of thought of perhaps, you know, we're going to have that flat space and perhaps we could actually paint it or make it kind of a different type of colors. There's actually a nonprofit out there called Project Backboard that specifically does this type of work. And so some of you might be familiar with, just down the street from here, our group did an intersection painting. So there's an intersection design. So in essence, it's very much like that, but just on the basketball court. So if we brought in some blues and some, you know, maybe some bubbles or something that could kind of reflect the fact that it used to be a swimming pool. It might be an interesting way to create different way people can play and different things like that. So we've been kind of tossing around that idea and trying to figure out, well, maybe there's a role that PrAC could play with regards to perhaps doing a little art contest or something like that. How could we kind of get some additional ideas as we move forward with this? But this could be a really, again, sort of low maintenance way to kind of integrate creativity and play into that park. So that's kind of an interesting idea. We're also looking to fill the funding gap. And we're looking to host an event at the park on June 9th. And that is a part of our kind of our first community enhancement grant, and to work with DPAVE to actually take out the asphalt on the upper portion of the court. So that's planned for June 9th. So this is a little bit of a thermometer that we kind of built about how we're trying to achieve, get to that 200,000. That kind of shows what we've already dedicated. We've kind of folding in the work that the girls had done in the Party in the Park and the planning workshop, but also the work that's being done in the initial stages. We are actively looking for additional funding. One of the resources we hope to access is a Nike Community Impact Fund grant. They fund around $20,000 and they fund resurfacing of basketball courts. So we're hoping to work on that, and that would be something that would be coming up in the late spring. We're looking to make another application for the Community Enhancement Program. We've been in talks with Willamette Falls, Providence Willamette Falls, and seeing if they would be able to provide a donation. We're hoping to continue to work with Oregon City Parks and Recreation. And we're working with volunteer labor and trying to figure out any other sort of funding opportunities that we can find. Let's see, what else do I have? So I guess I really wanted to end it there and be able to hear from you. We wanted to thank you for all of the support that you've given us in the past. We do know that we have at least 2 grant funding, and that being the Nike grant, as well as the hopefully another community enhancement grant that we'll be hoping to get letters of support from you. But we were also hoping to maybe, as you talk about your priorities for the upcoming year, can really highlight the importance of supporting the communities that are working to, the community groups that are working to have investment in their parks, and really make a statement about the importance for supporting Ladderette Park. So,
I would just like to add one thing.
okay.
And as a person who's lived in this town for a long time, I can't thank Phil Lewis enough for all the encouragement and real help that he has provided to our group from the onset. It's just wonderful having a director of community services who is really demonstrates how much he cares and wants to help us move forward. So thank you, Phil.
Did you want to add anything about your thoughts of us going in the next year?
Yeah, I think going through the full process, I've been very impressed with the dedication and all the community involvement, having the National Park Service on board and utilizing their expertise in the public outreach piece and kind of putting together all of the different components in the background has been extremely helpful. We're right now working on some revisions to the concept master plan process, and we're going to be moving forward with having an actual document for not only what the site should look like, but also what the long-term maintenance and continuing preventive maintenance needs are of the site. So that's something that's very interesting and definitely necessary for a project like this.
Chris? Are we ready to comment?
Yeah.
Ask questions, whatever? Okay. First off, I want to compliment you on your persistence on this. You know, it's pretty easy to get people fired up at first, but this has been a couple of years, and you still have people fired up, and you're to be congratulated for that. And this is a great effort. A couple of things. I saw on your funding thing, you probably already know this, but in case you don't, on the community enhancement grants, that committee did vote 2 nights ago to increase the maximum to 50,000. So you can up your little chart there a little bit and apply for more. DePave, that's the consultants you're working with?
So
who's DePave?
So that's a great question.
DePave.
DePave, yeah, they're a nonprofit organization that is specifically focusing on taking out pavement.
It's been a long week.
Right. So they worked with CASE on a project.
So what's CASE? That was another question.
CASE is the Clackamas Arts and Industrial Sciences School that's located there at the Jackson campus.
Oh, okay.
It's the charter school.
Clackamas Academy of Industrial Science.
Thank you.
Was the name of it.
Yeah. And so they're located just 2 blocks up from where Ladderette is. And they've worked with DePave before in putting in their courtyard area. But they're a great organization that work out.
Help me out. If I do that again, just slap me. One little tiny negative thing, or concern. Paint on that basketball court is going to be a maintenance nightmare, and it's going to look worse than you want it really quickly. I love the mural on the walls, and that's a little easier to do, but you get skateboarders and, you know, every activity from A to Z. I just would really caution against paint. It would look really cool for a week, I'm afraid.
Well,
But
I've
anyway.
actually been quite impressed with how the intersection painting has endured over the past year.
You know a sealer goes on top of that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. I'm speaking from a bad experience in another town years ago, so that's why I'm concerned about it.
I'd like to make a comment, if I
But
may. Chairman.
congratulations, it's terrific.
Thank you, Mike.
Working in Portland Parks, the idea of walls are always a good idea. It keeps the tagging down to a minimum. They seem to respect the fact that there's artwork and they don't tag over artwork, they being people who have that ilk. And so it's also an added benefit to reduce those kind of problems that quite often show up around a basketball court. So if there's a way to make that paint durable with the sealant, that's certainly an added benefit for reducing tagging.
And I'd kind of, if you could color it blue somehow, I'd like that because the pool's actually still underneath there.
Yes.
Also, if you can leave me your email address or something, I found 2 WPA photographs of the pool in use
Oh,
that were new to me, so I can email those to you.
oh, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
And, but to put in our concept plan just for fun, yeah.
Yeah.
These are the best ones I've seen so far of the pool actually active.
There's a lot of good stories from the folks who were there during those days. Yeah.
I swam there.
Something to think about with blue though, and that attracts birds. They have a natural, well, water.
Yes, yeah.
I can poop here,
Yeah, that's interesting.
so this would.
Huh. Ducks on the basketball court.
I thought Mitch was going to mention it. A couple of our people here are members of the Oregon City Parks Foundation, which is raising money and so forth. And you might want to talk to, are you chair, Mitch, or somebody else?
No, Roger is.
Roger's chair. And you might want to take some time to talk to him. And it might have more impact if there were 2 applicants for grant funding, you know, the foundation itself and your group too.
And we've, I guess I would say we've been partnering with the Parks Foundation, and they've been really generous in kind of being our financial
Umbrella.
Very good. I love that. So that we as a neighborhood group don't have to get into the details of that. And we've been able to really successfully partner with them. So that has been truly helpful. And it really is, in some ways, while it may look like $200,000 and there's a pretty good gap there, we do have potential opportunities. And like you said, I mean, there could be with the community enhancement grant and matching that 50,000, we could get up to 100,000 pretty fast. And then we really have to just have a little bit more to raise. So I'm actually quite hopeful that over the next year and a half or so that we could actually see some change, maybe like in 2 years from now, that we'll be able to stand here and say that, you know, we have a nature play area there and a resurfaced basketball court, which could be very exciting. But you'll probably continue to see us.
Chris? I was, having not been in the weeds, I was of this, I was kind of surprised as it went on that the basketball court was even still there. So can you kind of touch base on what the community involvement said to keep that? I kind of figured once D-Pave was coming in, that might be something that would go.
Well, so the basketball facilities right now are up at the top, right? And so we're going to take those basketball hoops down from the upper area and move it down. So what will be going away is the tennis. So currently there's the kind of the, what is that, chain link fence that's used as a net for that tennis court.
But was there a desire, you know, during the 70 people that to retain basketball? That's what I'm kind of.
Yes, there was definitely more interest in retaining basketball than there was tennis, but I think mostly they like the large open space. So because it can also be used for kids riding their bikes.
Okay.
You know, if you think about that neighborhood, it's kind of, you know, hilly, and having that open space, you know, and being able to have that, there's a little bit of a ramp. It's actually quite fun for kids. That can be. It's not just a basketball court, but it's a space that people can do interesting stuff with.
Yes, we, in September, we had a, what would you call it? A festival or a party? Yeah. And we had a band there and a lot of people came. And it was really nice having a large enough space for lots of different things to happen. Yeah. In a perfect world, you know, we'd have a covered basketball court like we have to have in Canada. But it's still, I think that it will get used a lot more.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris?
I heard in the beginning you mentioned the Girl Scouts, but then about 90% of the presentation you didn't mention the Girl Scouts. Are they no longer involved in this?
So we're allowing the Latterette Park core team to lead because they're the neighbors of the area. But the girls are very much involved. I would love to just play this little YouTube thing, but I won't. They're involved like on this this festival event. They helped kind of pull it all together and run. They did a raffle. They really like to get their hands on things and actually have something happen, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, the whole business of going to meetings and talking. They've done a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime we go out, and so they'll be there at active participants, and kind of the larger service unit will be able to be involved in the DPAVE event. And they also were really integral in being able to push out the survey to other kids to be able to take the survey. So they're involved they're definitely involved, but they're not out in front anymore.
Well, I love to see community groups get involved. But what I love more is when the rest of us just stay out of the way. What do you need? How can we help? And go to it, because I think you're doing a great job. I would encourage you to rely on those Girl Scouts a whole lot more. They have some great ideas. They're going to be here longer than we are. They maybe even care a little bit more than we do. And so I think they've got some great ideas. I share the sentiment of discouraging the painting of the basketball court. If you want basketball players there, they don't want a painted court. If you want a painted flat surface, make it not a basketball court, because the basketball players won't be playing on it. It's distracting. It doesn't work for them functionally. And so if that's what you're going to do, it's basketball, then I wouldn't paint the court, because you want to attract basketball players. And I also think if you're going to do some murals on some walls, I just think it's going to be too much. And I would love to see the art, but not on the flat surface. It's just on the walls. That's my encouragement. And the type of people, that doesn't sound good. The group of people you're encouraging, I mean, if you want the basketball players in the sports, they're not going to want that. But I think then it would also have a dual purpose if it weren't painted of many, many other things, because when you put chairs on it or canopies on it or drive on it or whatever, it remains nice and doesn't distract from whatever the presentation might be.
Great.
Just to add on to Troy's comment about the Girl Scouts involvement, I actually really enjoyed seeing them come to these meetings and give us updates, even though they were very, very nervous. It was very cute, and I think it's a great civics opportunity for them to experience this kind of setting. So I would encourage that they also come back and provide updates too.
Okay, great.
I was just going to say, as you're looking for grant support and writing grant proposals and so forth, I'm certain that the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council would be willing to write a letter of support. I'm sure we would. Natural Resource Committee would too, and I'm sure the Neighborhood Association would. But I think when a grantee sees how much community support is in terms of letters of support come out, I think it does have an influence. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was going to be one of my next questions is, are you asking for something this evening? Are you
Well, I
asking-
guess specifically, I know that you had been talking about your goals for the next coming year. And I would specifically ask that you be able to fold in supporting the work that's being done by the community at Latterette Park. I think we're at a critical time. Like I said, I think over the next year or two, we're really going to be working hard to make this happen. So that is the specific request for this evening. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Next is Oregon City Communications.
I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, committee members. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm the city's communication coordinator, and I appreciate you guys letting me be on your agenda tonight. I started January 2nd, 2018, so I'm on month 3. So I don't know how much wisdom or knowledge you're gonna get tonight, but I bet a year from now, this is gonna be a really interesting presentation. I did want to introduce myself, let you get to know a little bit about me, and kind of bring you into my world of communications. I'm a big government communications geek, self-proclaimed. So if I get way too in the weeds, I apologize. Pull me out, wave your hands, and I'll stop. I come to you guys with over 10 years of experience. I've been born and raised in Central Texas. In the last 5 years, I've been in Round Rock, Texas, working for the city there as their communications and marketing manager. So I've worked through a lot of campaigns, a lot of events, a lot of social media, just a variety of different channels that we use to communicate to our residents. We had over 100,000 residents at the city of Round Rock, so it's really fun to come to the city of Oregon City, and it's a smaller, more tight-knit group. So it's been great. I'm still learning. One of the big things I'm learning is pronunciation. And poor Phil has had to correct me on a lot.
She's a quick study.
You talk about pronunciations?
It's Willamette. I don't know if you knew that. Clackamas, Warner Myline, Una, Milsey. I'm still learning. Really, still learning. But we moved from Central Texas to Oregon. My husband's in the wine industry and had the opportunity to work with a winemaker. So he's busy doing that. And I got this great opportunity to start this new program here in Oregon City. So I'm going to get into a little bit of my world. Come with me. So Microsoft did this study, and they said in the year 2000, the human attention span was 12 seconds. Now, in 2017, the human attention span is 8 seconds. In comparison, goldfish's attention spans are 9 seconds. So that's what I'm working with, guys. That's what I'm dealing with. I can probably stop right now and turn away. We'll be good.
You lost us.
All the way done. So the reasoning behind that is the way that we input information now, the way that we absorb it has changed from traditional media to digital media. You know, think about the days where all we had were radio and newspaper, and then the advent of the television, and, you know, all of those forms of information were brought through a reporter or a citizen, if you will. And it was a great way to advertise and great way to make money for all of those channels. And now we're into digital media. So most of the information that you're accessing is on your phone, on your laptop, on your desktop. And we're able to access so much information now so quickly. I mean, can you imagine having a song stuck in your head and you can't remember who sang it and not being able to go to Google and figure out who sang that song? I mean, it's just ridiculous. So really, as a city, we're tasked to be part of what I like to call the information economy. So we have to be part of this economy. We have to be feeding our communication channels, not only in crisis communications, but in education. We have to be part of e-commerce. Folks want to pay their utility bills online. So that's something we have to hop on board with. We can't remain silent, and we can't just rely on the digital media. We have to rely on the traditional media as well. That's the landscape that we're in right now. Also, I found this very fascinating. The average adult spends 2.5 hours every day on social media. More frightening than that is the average teenager spends 9 hours on social media a day.
Every day.
And I checked with Phil, and he's like, when did they go to school? He had a 14-year-old. He kind of knows these things. The report said, on average, when you're online, 30% of your time online is spent with social media. So this is what a typical adult's day looks like. This is your breakout. Heavy users of YouTube and Facebook. Other could be Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Marco Polo, whatever the new flavor of the week is out. And so I'm going to focus a little bit of this presentation on Facebook because 2.13 billion users are active on Facebook a month. So it is a platform that we have to use and we have to communicate with and through. When I started, my first job was to do a social media audit. So I did a lot of combing. Where are we talking? Who are we talking to? What platforms are we using? How many people are following us? Kind of drilling down into who are those people? What demographics are following us? What's the age range? And I found that we had 5 Facebook pages, 4 Instagram accounts, and 3 Twitter accounts. And I did want to note that the police and the library have all 3 of these channels, and they have a heavy following. I'm sure, I don't, if you guys want to say, like, how many of you guys follow police and library? Yeah. And if you think about it, this is me getting into my geeky government communications world. It really makes sense because people can have a vested interest in public safety. People can have a vested interest in education. You know, people are readers, so they want to know what's going on in the library. It is more difficult to get people onto a channel for government. It's just not sexy enough. Police, fire, you know, they got the guys in the uniform and they're doing the hard things. And it's a difficult call to ask people to learn what's going on with your local government. But that's our job. That's what we have to do. We have to make it fun and interesting and interactive and open up some two-way conversations so that way people think it's worth their time to follow you. So we're also on Nextdoor. That's where the public meetings are shown. YouTube is where public meetings are shown. Nextdoor is being used by PD, and I just started doing a few posts on Nextdoor. The library uses Pinterest, and then Flickr is a great place for images in general. So knowing that, I have to come up with what I call my special sauce of information. Where are we going to put what information? So we have all of these channels that are available to us, and I have to determine what information is going to be most impactful where. It's always rummaging around, and when I get emails in about it being National Water Day, you know, I have to consider who would really want that information, why, and how can we make it fun and interesting so that way someone would want to learn more. So my next step after the social media audit was to meet with all of the directors and learn about their goals, what communication campaigns they want for 2018 and then on to the next 5 years. And I got the opportunity to sit down with Phil, and he was very patient and kind with me. And these were some of the goals that I took. These are part of my notes. I took these down as things that I could take on and help him with. Glen Oak Park specifically, because we might be going through a naming process, and I think that could be really fun and interactive with the community. So you guys are all familiar with those things, but I did want to highlight volunteerism because after Phil and I had our conversation, I got a call from the Pioneer Community Center, and they said, hey, it's the month of March. This is Meals on Wheels month, if you didn't know. And we need more information about volunteers. We need more information out about the program, and we need some more volunteers. And I said, cool, you got pictures of some volunteers? They said, yeah, absolutely. I said, great, give me some stats, and I'll put something together, and I'll shoot it out. So what we got is this little post on Facebook, and Phil's gonna press play. 8 seconds, remember. So I'm not going to get an Academy Award on that, but you know, it's it was actually 10 seconds. So hopefully people, people did. It reached people. We got 476 people reached. So that means that 476 actually stopped scrolling. 243 watched the darn thing. And to me, the most impactful piece of this is we got 30 post clicks, which means 30 people clicked on that link and they wanted to learn more about how to volunteer, how to donate their time. So to me, super cool, fun, impactful. It makes you feel really good about your community, right? Because you know that this is happening in your community and that seniors are getting fed. But I don't want you to feel like, oh, Kristen can just put something on Facebook and it's gonna work and everybody's gonna see it, because the next day, the Parks and Rec Facebook shared that post and they got 14 people that they reached in one video view. So it's not always as easy as it seems. And I'm gonna go further down into the Facebook rabbit hole with you guys. Facebook has an algorithm, and I'm sure you all know this. But even if you like a page on Facebook, you're not guaranteed to see all of their content. The only way you see the majority of someone's content is when you interact with someone else, with their page. If you like it, if you do the smiley face, if you comment on it, if you share it, that's what Facebook uses and says, oh, wow, they really like this. So all those cute puppy videos that you stop and you watch, Facebook knows, and you're gonna get some more cute puppy videos. Or if you're like me, I always get the food videos. I'm like, stop, I'm already hungry. I don't need to know this. But I will say that Facebook has, as of the beginning of the year, changed their algorithm to reward interaction with your friends and with your family. And the communication that I've gotten from Facebook is that they will begin to reward more local media. I haven't seen an uptick, and I've talked with other folks, other peers, and they haven't really seen an uptick in viewership of posting. But I think that is forthcoming, and I think that's a good thing for us, you know, that they would recognize that you're in Oregon City and the city of Oregon City is putting information out, and you might want to take advantage of that. So I went through that pretty quickly, but my next step after I met the directors was to take their goals and initiatives and create a content calendar. So that way I know month over month what to expect, what's going to happen. And then I've set up a monthly meeting with a representative of each department. And we kind of dive a little deeper into what does the street closure mean? When are we going to do street sweepings? When are we going to do our next cleanup events? So that way I can kind of preemptively create those videos and create those images so we can push them out and get them out on the various platforms. My other big project is to do a community survey this summer. Selfishly, because I want to know how people would like to receive communication from the city, on what platforms, how frequently, and then also to get some indication of service, how our residents are feeling about the service that we provide, and then maybe getting some feedback on some projects too. And that would be a survey we would do every other year just to see where opinions are trending, and then also to help educate staff, commission, and you guys as a committee too, because there would definitely be a parks portion of that survey. And then the most exciting thing is this summer, the photo contest, we want to do a parks edition. I really want some great pictures of our parks. I want people in parks. I want dogs playing. I want children laughing. So I'm going to charge the community with taking those great pictures, submitting them to us, and first place is 2, maybe 4 VIP seats at a summer concert. I don't know. maybe we need to up the ante, Phil. I'm not excited.
We'll work on that.
We'll work on that. All right, okay. So we'll breeze past that. So my other big project was, as soon as I started, city manager told me, all right, State of the City's coming up in March. go. So I got this 20-page document of the highlights from 2017. So all the directors compiled this amazing list with all of their accomplishments. And so my first few days was going through this 20-page document and highlighting all the cool stuff, and there was a lot of highlighting, and trying to like manage that big document down to touch points that I felt were relevant to our community. And then I came up with that smaller list and was looking at it and thought, geez, you know, the only way to really disseminate the information would be to do a fun video, something that has a little bit of humor, that keeps you engaged. It's more than 8 seconds. But so I worked closely with a design firm, and we came up with this video that I'd love to share with you guys. And it was also at the State of the City. So if you were there, I apologize. You're going to have to sit through it one more time. But I hope you guys can appreciate this. If I advance the slide. There it is.
Welcome to the Mayor's State of the City address. Everything you didn't know you needed to know. 2017 was a busy year for Oregon City, full of great achievements and amazing accomplishments. What happened to make it such a great year, you didn't ask? Good question. Our brag book includes maintaining AA bond rating from Standards & Poor's and the National Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Our accountants are on the top of their game. We've got a Silver Safety Award from the League of Oregon Cities, which means we are recognized for our proven track record of avoiding injuries and commitment to a safe work environment. Our brand spanking new library won Restore Oregon's DeMuro Award for Excellence in Preservation. Oregon City received a record amount of grant funding to keep projects on track and operations on budget. $3.8 million from Metro for the Malala Avenue Completion Project. $25,000 for the McLaughlin Promenade Project, making the walkway safe and beautiful. We received $100,000 in grant dollars from Metro to work with the community reducing barriers to housing opportunities. Sewer installations along Beaver Creek Road were made possible by the $60,000 grant from the Infrastructure Finance Authority. While we're on the subject of Beaver Creek Road, let's talk about the opportunity for job growth in our backyard. The Beaver Creek Road Concept Plan allows various types of employment with some residential development and limited commercial uses. That means 453 acres will be crafted to create a multi-use community that has synergistic relationships with Clackamas Community College, Oregon City High School, and adjacent neighborhoods. More opportunity than a beaver can shake a stick at. And good news, progress has been made to get to work on everyone's favorite Willamette Falls Legacy Project. I know what you're thinking. Why don't I see progress? The thing is, lots of work on big projects takes place behind the scenes, like planning, design, and outreach, prior to dirt turning on any project. We agree it would be so much easier to wave a magic wand. Let us know if you find one. We worked in conjunction with regional partners to help create the Riverwalk Master Plan. Important documents will guide this massive project. The best news is that you showed up in big ways to guide these plans and inform decisions. Let's take a look at upgrades and expansions. We've laid 1,600 tons of pavement, which is a 49% increase over last year. Did we mention that people love Oregon City? In one short year, we've conducted pre-development meetings that nearly double that of 2 years ago. We have seen construction of many new buildings, including a medical office building at the hospital, the Industrial Technical Center at Clackamas Community College, a replacement fire station, new apartments at the Cove, and investments in existing buildings by businesses such as Fred Meyer, Benchmade Knives, and Orchid Orthopedic. Those building investments are valued at more than $120 million in a single year. On the homes front, 100 single-family homes and 4 multi-family cottages were completed, allowing a greater number of families to call Oregon City home. It's no surprise so many people want to call Oregon City home. With 38 parks, including our community pool and Pioneer Center, we're seeing a record amount of visits. You care about your parks. In fact, over 16,000 volunteer hours were logged by generous community members to help our facilities stay clean and beautiful. It's not all swimsuits and tracksuits. Over 28,000 meals were provided by the Meals on Wheels program in partnership with the Pioneer Center. We take pride in rolling out the red carpet for our community. In fact, our newly opened library receives over 30,000 visits a month, and thanks to book lovers, aka the Library Foundation, over $300,000 have been donated to expand the library's work, making a life-changing difference for children and families. We also began our tourism master plan, which will broaden our city's landscape and potential revenue. This plan will set priorities for marketing efforts and improvements that will entice visitors to Oregon City. With our rich heritage, amazing views, and thriving downtown, who wouldn't want to come to Oregon City? Did we mention we've got 2 Dutch brothers within 1 mile of each other? Well, we could go on, but you've stopped listening already. Thank you for making 2017 such a success. We are honored you call Oregon City home.
Yay. Still makes me smile, and I've listened to that thing so many times.
I love the beavers.
I do
We've got to
too.
do something with those beavers.
We own the beavers. Believe you me. I have the rights to each one of those different colored little beavers. I think they're so adorable. So what I have next is some homework for you guys. A little challenge. I am one person, and I love to have content, right? That is the biggest tool that I can use to communicate to our community. So my challenge to you guys is, if you are in a park, snap a picture, tag us. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it doesn't matter. If you're a great writer, write an article about your best day in Oregon City. It starts with going downtown to the White Rabbit and getting a coffee, and then walking up McLaughlin Promenade and over to the library. Something. Content is king, and if it's coming from you guys, from the residents, it's more impactful, right? People can connect with it. They can get behind a picture of you having a picnic in a park more so than a stock image of Nowhereville, right? So I am only one person. I can't go out and create everything, but you guys are an amazing resource. And if I can give you homework, that would be my homework to you, is to help create some content. With that, if you guys, I don't know if we have time, I'll take some questions if you have some questions.
Go ahead, Doug.
A question and then something to include if you're a beaver lover. Are you interacting at this point with the neighborhood associations?
No, I've met a few people in neighborhood associations, and right now my focus is really getting my arms around what's happening in the city and communicating it on the various platforms. So I've had a little interaction with some, but not specifically, or I guess strategically.
Okay. I think it's really good that the city is really embracing social media. It's a little embarrassing, but if you want to know what's going on in the community, my wife refers to Oregon City Chit Chat as the Oracle. I ask her what's going on. She says, consult the Oracle. So, and it's hit or miss, and it has a lot of interaction.
Yeah.
And some of the information is good, a lot of it's bad, some heated debate, but it'd be nice to have some interaction there as well.
Yeah.
Without, like poking the bear.
For sure. The thing about a private group is, as a place page or as a government page, we can't be accepted in. So I could never post as the city, which is ironic because if I were in that group, I could share a post from the city and then allow all this comment to happen, right, in this closed group. But Facebook created those things to be private, right? So that way you could have a conversation with you and your best buddies, which are probably now, like 5,000 people in this closed group. But I will say that all cities have something of that nature. And even though misinformation can be spread, people view it as a safe space, right? And they say things there that they may or may not say face-to-face publicly on their Facebook pages. So I tend to look at a closed group as truly that, like a closed group. But the onus is on us for putting out content and putting out the appropriate information and the right information. That's kind of my viewpoint on that.
Chit Chat is well moderated, which I appreciate.
Sure.
And yes, city stuff gets shared to Chit Chat. Don't know who does that.
Great.
In fact, I know I shared the video.
Good.
And I think I shared it to Chit Chat, but
Cool.
I'll have to double check.
Awesome. That's great. I mean, correct information, there's nothing wrong with sharing that, right? You know?
Well, and there are other groups out there that aren't well moderated, but I've been really happy with Chit Chat.
Yeah.
So
The Oracle is working for you, Karen.
yes.
I just, first off, wanted to say welcome to the city.
Thank you.
And we're excited to have you. Personally, I've spoken with Tony several times, and you could probably talk to him about this tomorrow, about flaws in the social media within the city. And he was telling me that we're going to fix that. So clearly you're that fix. I have a lot of faith.
No pressure.
One of the things,
None.
and I do follow the city.
Awesome.
And I like the informational tidbits that come out. For example, if there's a construction project or a water pipe project, what the city in the past has been terrible about doing is they would put out the first post, and then as soon as the project went sideways, had a 2-week delay, they'd never update it.
Oh.
And so that's that follow-on for a lot of us that are using it for commuting.
Right.
You need that. Well, this thing's sitting here for 3 more weeks. I thought it was supposed to be done 3 weeks ago. Now what? And you
Yeah.
asked for an update and it wouldn't happen. So your target of opportunity tonight, and I thought I'd
I appreciate that. No, that's great. Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I can understand the need to reach those people who are using social media 9 hours.
Sorry,
a day.
Tom, if you'd like to be up the dais. Thank you.
Have a microphone.
Get to say who you are again.
Must I identify myself too? Tom O'Brien, I'm involved in the Hazel Grove Westling Farms neighborhood. I understand, where you're at and you're just beginning, that you're trying to reach these people who are on social media 9 hours a day. But going down the road in the future, what are you intending to do to reach those of us who don't use social media?
Yeah.
And there are many of us in this city.
Yeah, no, that is a very valid, great question. I will say that I'm set up a meeting monthly with a reporter to go through what's happening monthly with the city, so that way we can get some more articles written about projects that are ongoing, maybe give some updates about construction projects, about water projects, about great events. We got some good coverage for Enhancement Day on April 7th, just by putting a news release out, and we got 2-3 stories published on it. So reporters are your best friend when it comes to traditional media. So building that list of contacts for me is what's very important.
Do you have a card with you this evening?
I do in my office upstairs. I can grab you one.
I'm one of the leaders of the genealogy group here in Oregon City. That meets at
Fantastic.
the library once a month.
You're my Throwback Thursday.
And I would like to get information to you about
Cool.
what we do.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Tom, I'm just curious, what sources of information do you typically use to get information about the city?
I read the Oregon City News every week. I'm starting to put more interest in our quarterly publication because it's starting to have more actual information in it instead of just boilerplate. The older folks in the community share a lot by word of mouth. Our neighborhood has a lot of walkers, our age and older. And we stop and chat with each other, and we share information about what's going on in the city and what we like about it and what we don't particularly care for. But, there's a lot of social networking going on that's not done on social media.
Well, walking social media.
Tom, do you use the city website?
No, occasionally, to look at the calendar and to look at agenda items and videos of certain meetings.
Thank you, Tom.
Doug?
If you do this, I think the police chief will be embarrassed and probably might not want you to do it. But there's a great video that I think you should hook onto it. A few years back, a beaver came across McLaughlin Boulevard. The police department came and escorted the beaver to a nearby stream.
Oh, nice.
They got it on video.
Nice. They should.
It had a bit of national press in the process.
It went viral.
I think it embarrassed me because there were so many police officers down there, one taking a video, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 people there escorting the beaver.
Dangerous creatures.
You got a beaver in there, and I think it's one of these things that people will hook into, and they
They'll
say,
connect
well, isn't
with.
that neat?
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. Anytime we can humanize our public safety personnel, it's a good thing.
Any more questions for Kristen?
No.
All right.
No, I'll just kind of follow on to what Tom said. I think there probably are more people than we realize that citizens that aren't using social media and aren't looking at the website. I personally have huge concerns with using social media to discuss what's going on in the city. It's not a forum for a discussion. It turns into name calling and misinformation. And we've had some sad experiences lately of how things can go sideways. So anyway.
Even outside of chit chat.
I mean, I get it that, I kind of got one foot on both because I use social media a fair amount. My wife uses it a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
In a positive way.
Sure.
But it's got to be part of the whole.
The special sauce.
The traditional.
That's what I
That's
call
right.
it.
The whole.
The
And we got to have all.
special
We got to have all the ingredients of the sauce. That's all.
Right.
And if I can say one thing, we recently took a poll in our neighborhood association. And by a show of hands, there were maybe 50 people at that particular meeting. Only 2 raised their hand using Facebook.
No way. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, they prefer email
Oh.
or
okay.
the local Oregon City News.
Well,
And so we created a distribution list with
that's
emails.
awesome.
So something.
That is really good
yeah,
to know.
it-
I feel like the survey that I do this summer is going to be super beneficial. I'm shooting from the hip a bit, just relying on what we're doing now and then kind of amping up those channels. So I feel like the survey, which would be statistically valid, so it would be electronic as long as as well as paper. So that way we can capture many different points of view, many different ages, different ethnicities too. Should we be communicating in a different language than we are right now?
And maybe visiting the neighborhood associations.
Sure.
It would be, I think, beneficial.
People do read the stuffers in the utility bills.
Agreed. That is a great method. That's a great method of
First thing in the
communication.
recycle bin. Sorry.
So are we gonna have Kristen back on a regular basis for updates or
Probably not on a regular basis, but
semi-regular,
yeah, we can work out maybe a
quarterly?
ongoing, probably not
Twice a year.
quarterly. Yeah, she is only one person, and so given the amount of evening meetings that she already attends, her husband probably wants to see her every once in a while. But we definitely can try to put together a schedule to make sure that we're inviting her back on a regular basis.
Be happy to share what's going on.
All right. Great. General business, are these all standing items?
Somewhat.
Buena Vista House?
So just a little update on the Buena Vista House. We did have a stakeholder meeting, which 3 members of this group were at earlier this week. Discussed the history of the Buena Vista House, went through a little bit of the communications. The city hired a consultant to facilitate the meetings, just so there was an independent voice in the meetings to kind of receive the information from all the different stakeholders that were there, and then to be able to help coordinate, kind of bringing us together and work on a solution for what to do with the Buena Vista House, which is currently sitting without power, without utilities. There is an interest for members of the group to refurbish the site and make sure that it's open and accessible for use for the community. And we're just kind of taking the steps to make sure we can figure out a way to do that feasibly, where we're not doing it to the detriment of other parks and facilities, the Parks Department is charged with managing. So a pretty good, productive meeting. I don't know if Bill or Karen or Roger, you want to expand on that a little bit?
I might add that one of the suggestions that came up was a tour of the Buena Vista House.
Yes.
For those who may be on PrAC specifically, and perhaps some other stakeholders that Phil might be able to arrange to do that through the parks operations staff.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. So we will be attempting to set up a tour at some point, probably early to mid-April. So if there's any members of this group that would like to join, I'll be sending out an email to coordinate a date. I'm sure it probably won't work for all members to be there, depending on the date that is chosen, but we'll try to get it out in a little bit of an advance so that you have an opportunity to try to make it if you can.
I also might mention that I got to meet Kristen at that meeting.
You did, yeah. It was a great meeting. Buena.
Either one is, yeah, either
Bill
one.
says either one. I'm in the clear.
I'm with Bill.
Okay, well, it follows Legacy Project.
So some exciting news. Just this week, the property owner has agreed to sign off on paperwork for permitting to move forward with the phase 1 development of the Riverwalk. Yay! There are, as you're aware, there were some reservations by the current owner as to the direction of the project. There were some concerns of the partners group that the property owner had not made a formal commitment to moving on with phase 1, as well as he's in the rears on some money, both through the agreement for the easement. He had a commitment to make payments for the easement, as well as he's in the rears on some property taxes as well as utilities. And so the request of the partners group was that he sign off on all of the permitting, as well as come current on all of his monetary commitments. He has signed off on the permitting paperwork, which we're thankful for. The partners group met just yesterday to agree that they're very appreciative of him signing off on that, but that they do need to see further commitment in the form of coming current on his bills. So there was, I feel that the ownership group, Mr. Heidkirchen, seems to be willing to come forward on that and has made a commitment within the next 30 days or so to become current with that. So if that is the case, the partners seem to be in agreement to move forward with construction of the project. So good news.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ermitinger House.
Ermitinger House. So earlier this month at the City Commission work session, I made a presentation to the City Commission to move forward with a Plan B for the Ermitinger House. As you may know, that we have a friends group that has made statements that they were committed to move forward with operating the house once the house got into a condition where we could open it up to the public. They have let the city know that they're not in a position to be able to do that currently. And so with that, knowing the commitment that the city has made in getting the house retrofitted and up to date on mechanicals and structurally, and all the cost and staff time that's gone into that, it's important to make sure that the house is open to the public. And so Plan B was crafted to hire a part-time staff person that would operate the home on a very similar schedule to what the McLaughlin House is currently operated during their operating season, Fridays and Saturdays for a limited term, 10 to 4 o'clock. So something similar where if we have tourists in the area, they can go and tour the McLaughlin House. They can also come over to the Ermitinger House and tour both sites. So hopefully we'll have a lot of communication pieces with the Ermitinger House, having flyers and things like that. At the McLaughlin House, we've already had connection with the National Park Service. We are working with volunteer to put together the furniture package. Staff is prepping the interpretive display panels, which will be in the home, and we'll be updating the website and getting other marketing materials out to the community. We have an upcoming event scheduled for June 22nd and 23rd for the Oregon City Heritage Days event. So the site will be open on that day. Our plan is to move forward with maintaining an open status after that date. It's currently our plan, with a grand opening some point this summer, most likely early July. Any questions on that?
Okay.
Great.
Waterboard Park Overlook.
So I would like to give a shout out to Karen, who is a fantastic facilitator. We had a very large group at the Rivercrest Neighborhood Association meeting earlier this month, and probably around 65 people in attendance. So a large group. And as anyone who has attended a public meeting where there are many different concerns over topics, it can be difficult to keep order and maintain an open communication channel, and she did a great job. So we do want to note that. So at that meeting, myself, John Lewis with Public Works, Chief Band with Police, as well as multiple representatives of the police department, were in attendance and discussed many safety and security needs, both at Waterboard Park Overlook as well as in the surrounding community. A lot of different information was shared, ranging from speeding, drug use, alcohol, drinking, loud music, many different topics. So obviously a lot of concern, something that the city shares in those concerns. I know that there's Chief Band has made a commitment just recently to change the signage slightly to show that the off-hours parking will be strictly enforced. So that's one good point that we'll be moving forward in the current term. So he's already let staff know that they should be out there and engaging with citizens that are there for the improper reasons and there during hours where they shouldn't be. And hopefully that will curtail some of the non-permitted uses in that area. Additionally, we're looking at, what we might be able to do with the design of the site, possibly changing the structure of how people access, whether we, remove parking or we put in, barriers and different configurations that might change the flow of traffic in and around the viewpoint area. The Parks Department is looking at installing security cameras. We have purchased 4 security cameras for parks throughout our system. Originally, we had planned on putting 1 camera at the overlook there, and we're currently figuring out if we should install 2 cameras at the overlook. So we're in the process working with a firm to try to work out the details on what that would look like. But lots of different options. If you have feedback or concerns, feel free to send me an email. Karen's been collecting emails from and comments from community members in the Rivercrest neighborhood, and we'd be happy to share those with staff and make sure we're coming up with a solution that works for everybody.
Yep.
You want to make a guess what I'm going to say? Signage off of John Adams, where John Adams crosses Lynn, to the pathway that you can walk up to the overlook. There's a path that leads up there. You have to get on City Street's part of the way, but you're on a dedicated path, and that would be nice. So people know you can actually walk from the McLaughlin neighborhood without going through the public works site and get up there.
Yeah, so we're looking at updating signage, and so that would be something we could look at as well.
Well, we also asked Katie to go ahead and put our draft minutes up on the Neighborhood Association site. So if anybody wants to know more about the meeting, the minutes are available under the Rivercrest Neighborhood Association.
Any other comments? Okay, Glen Oak Park, excuse me.
Great. So I have a short PowerPoint, and I will move through this quickly as most of it is review for those of you on the group that have been here for a while. Mainly the main point of this is to kind of talk about the development timeline, but just to give a quick overview of the park. So we do have 38 parks and facilities in our program, approximately 300 acres. You'll notice Glen Oak Park there in the lower right-hand side. And you'll also notice that there aren't many other parks in that general vicinity. So it is a much needed park and a park deficient area of our community. It's approximately 9 acres and adjacent to the high school property, the new bus barn to the north. This is a master plan concept with the full development. We're doing it in a phased approach. So we have a phase 1 development, which will include most of the projects on the north and east sides of the park. We will have some trail connectivity to the lower side, and we'll go across the Glen Oak Road there to the south. This is the main piece that I wanted to communicate with the group. So we did receive, as you're aware, a $496,000 grant through State Parks. We are pairing that with roughly $2 million in Park SDC funds to develop the phase 1 of Glen Oak Park. We're working right now on the RFP for the architectural services. Soon after that, to start construction documents and permitting. That will go through the end of this year, late fall of 2018. Bid process and park construction will start in winter of 2019, with the park completion slated for late summer, early fall of 2019. The other fun piece that we get to work on, which Kristen spoke about a little bit earlier, is we don't have a name for the park just yet. And so next steps, we do need to decide on a name. We had a naming committee that met just this week. My whole week is merging. I apologize. It's been a pretty full week. So we just met this week to discuss the naming of Glen Oak Park and came up with a framework and a general timeline. And I'll turn it over to Sean to kind of go through the timeline that we're looking at and the general parameters. I will also hand out a little handout that kind of goes through the timeline, so you'll have something to look at.
So I assume that's the timeline I have in front of me.
Yes.
Okay. So it was a really good meeting, and the number one thing I think we all agreed on was significant public involvement. And so the first thing we want to do is go out in the next trail news and that general couple month period with a solicitation on the website. Kristen will be helping Phil with that, to ask people for input, for suggestions. So it's not a contest so much as a suggestion, but we also want them to back up their suggestion. Why is the name important to the city? What's the significance? So don't just throw out 5 or 6 names. So I think we're all really excited to see what those will be. And then we'll come back again in the summer with a larger group, bringing in probably a couple city commissioners. I don't remember.
We talked about representation from the Neighborhood Association.
Yeah. So it's about 10 or 11 people that we kind of came up with, and we'll try to distill that list down to a top number, be it 4 to 6. We don't have a set number. And then take those names and put them out for a survey on the city website late summer in August into September, and hopefully coming back in September, October to PRAC after the naming committee meets again and recommends a final name for adoption. So, any questions?
Great.
Phil,
So that's,
Can you run it back to the construction timeline page?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make sure I have my notes straight here.
and I can send out a copy of this to you as well, Mike. I know that you probably want to get an update to the Caulfield
Yeah.
group.
That would be great. If you could send me that, it'd be terrific.
Yeah, Phil, if you could
Great.
send out
Thank you.
presentations tonight,
Send out all the presentations?
yeah, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Filbert Run?
So I also have we're just full of PowerPoint presentations today.
Kristen's making us more creative.
Yeah.
Where's the beavers, Phil?
Yes, really.
If I can, that's what I'll go for it. So see, I told you I didn't think I would need the keyboard. I think I do.
think you
There
do.
we go. There we go. And I love this picture, so I try to put it on everything.
Say, I don't recognize it.
No, no lace until required.
So if you've already seen it before, this is at Rivercrest, and this woman was very kind to let me take probably a bazillion photos of her and her children at the park. So I do have a couple that I can share with Kristen.
Smiling babies.
So similar to the Glen Oak presentation, just a little bit of an overview of the Filbert Run, realizing that we probably haven't really reviewed the master plan for Filbert Run in a little while. So Filbert Run, you'll notice there in the southwest corner of the city, fairly close to the South End Concept Plan area. The park is approximately 3.5 acres there on Hazelnut Avenue. The site analysis, you'll notice there's a vegetated corridor through the center of the park, which is a water corridor for stormwater. We also have an open lawn area there on the east side of the park, an existing tree canopy in the center, and some smaller, newer planted trees that community members have done over the last couple of years on the western side of the park. Current existing conditions, you can see some of the examples of the tree canopy in the middle. Great stand of trees, and we're very fortunate to have that as an existing amenity in the park. You'll also see the existing Hazelnut Avenue frontage with a sidewalk, and the Westwood Drive frontage with non-existent entryway into the park. So the master plan will have a much needed welcoming into the park once it's developed. So this is the master plan concept. After multiple community engagement, open houses with multiple different options for the configuration of the master plan, this was the final plan that was selected. It does call for a pathway running through the park, roughly half-mile loop, which will allow for exercise use in the park. In the center of the park, you'll also see a smaller shelter, nature play elements. We have some bridges that will, footbridges that will go across the vegetative corridor in the middle of the park. And we have additional signage, benches, picnic tables, things like that, which will also be included. Just some precedent images of what those different aspects might look like. And some precedent images of the play elements. You'll notice that it calls for both play, nature play elements, as well as some more structured play elements as well. This is a timeline. So if we are in the process of applying for a grant through Oregon State Parks, if the grant is successful, this is the anticipated timeline of Filbert Run Park development, which would call for a park completion in the summer of 2020. Because of the size of the park and being not a very complex development, it would be done in one phase. We're anticipating it to be around a $1.2 million build out. That would include both the construction costs as well as the soft costs for permitting, SDCs, plan design. So with that, I would like to make a formal request to have a PrAC vote to have the chair write a letter of support for the state park grant. So if anybody would like to make a motion to have that, I would greatly appreciate it.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Great. Thank you so much.
This is just a thought, and there may be reasons you can't do it. That play area looks like it's going to be for younger children. You've got the one street that stubs into it from the south.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if it's possible to put just a basketball hoop at the end of that for kids in the neighborhood, team middle school, high school, to actually use that area there. Because that stub's not going to really do anything out, never going to go.
Yeah, I think we can definitely look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the entrance points of the park, so there might be some consideration for maintaining access, but yeah,
Right.
something we can.
Well, there's sidewalks there, so I'm going to assume that the pathway's going to come off of one of those
Yeah,
sidewalks.
hopefully, probably most likely on the western edge, have a little bit more.
It's just something to think about.
Somebody will probably put one out there if you don't, so.
Yeah.
That's true, that could happen.
Is this something that the Parks Foundation would be interested in writing a letter on also?
I think we're sort of in the process.
Yep.
And I think because you've got an intermittent stream flowing through, I think probably the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council would do
yeah.
so too.
I would appreciate that. The deadline is April 1st, and so we're only about a week away from compiling everything together. I'll reach out to you and see if maybe we can get a letter. Should I reach out to you or I'm forgetting her name? Rita. Yeah. Would she be the better point of contact?
I'll write to our board members because we won't have a meeting before
Yeah,
April
I
1st.
know. Yeah.
I should be able to send you a draft tomorrow.
Okay.
For some input.
Perfect. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Other general business?
None on this end.
Okay. Member reports? We'll start down here with Roger.
Thank you. Pioneer Center updates. The tax appointments seem to be really popular. They're still full. We have a wait list. Because people like free tax service. Trips around the region are well attended and continue to be popular. The walking group has started up again and will continue into the fall. A new backup bus driver has been hired and is in training to be on board soon. The center's grounds look great thanks to the hard work of the Parks Department staff. Oregon City Parks Foundation updates. We have raised enough funds to cover our $8,000 match for the $19,800 Metro Enhancement Grant, and we'll probably be going forward with hiring a contractor, working with Phil in the Parks Department to spray the ivy this spring, and again next fall. We will need an extension to be able to do it for next fall. We've also satisfied our volunteer hours for the grant, so we'll be above those hours. We've also applied for another $8,000 grant, and we've had some good feedback, positive feedback. So there's no guarantees that's for about that would help us cover that $8,000, and we wouldn't have to spend it out of our funds. Our waterboard park Ivy Pull is this weekend, and we are meeting at the Army with a sign-in starting at 8:30. We'll be continuing our work cleaning ivy off the trees and in preparation for professional ivy spraying this fall. Following the Ivy Pull at noon, naturalists Jerry Herman and Brian Boyce will be giving a short talk about David Douglas and his Northwest region and collecting, identifying, shipping Northwest flora and fauna to Europe. We are also planning on participating in the city cleanup on April 7th down at Promenade Park. And we will be anticipating adding about several hundred plants to our planting down by the VFW. The number of plants is dependent on their availability with the nursery. Our next meeting will be April 24th, 7 p.m. at the Pioneer Center Wagon Room.
Karen?
March 10th was a beautiful sunny Saturday, yes. We had 13 people show up at Mountain View Cemetery for the cleanup. Staff picked the spot for us, and we're going to discuss this in the future. We were cleaning underneath the fir trees. That puts down quite a bed of needles on some of those cemetery lots. But most of the people that were participating were there for the first time and are interested in coming back. So we're slowly getting more people engaged. On April 28th, the Sons of Veterans of the Civil War are having a national encampment in Portland, and they have chosen Mountain View as the location for a memorial ceremony that will be done at a plot that was given to the Grand Army of the Republic. And there's 8 Civil War veterans buried in the plot. So that was quite an honor, and working on getting out some publicity and getting people invited to participate in that. And yes, and Kristen will be hearing more. And this Solve last year combined an historic cemetery cleanup with the beach cleanup. This year, they've actually separated the two. So in May, they are doing a statewide historic cemetery cleanup. And I'm working with staff on getting that organized and deciding on what we want to focus on. One issue we do have at the cemetery is well-meaning families that planted invasive species in family lots that are best removed by hand. So that might be what we will focus on. We haven't decided yet.
Doug?
Yeah, the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council is involved in a couple of parks activities. We applied to the Metro Enhancement Board for funding 2 years ago to actually work with Public Works in the design of the Scattering Canyon project. It's a stormwater system that goes through the cemetery, flows below the mausoleum and so forth. And it's an intermittent stream, but when it flows at a tremendous velocity. So it's called Scattering Canyon for a reason. The scattering is because people will scatter their ashes there, but the canyons form because of highly incised effects of stormwater going through the system. We thought we were going to be able to use that this year, but the Public Works Department has 2 major stormwater failure systems that they had to deal with and had to expend monies that they normally wouldn't have been planning to expend. But Martin Montalvo will be coming with us to ask for extension for that grant and doing that in the coming year. We're also every year for several years been involved in invasive plantings at the Abernathy Creek Park removing invasives, not planting them, and also planting indigenous material. It's been a challenge, and we met with John Waverly and a person who is putting forward the design in terms of the control of the invasive theirs and plantings to come forward, and the Oregon City Watershed Council is going to be looking for a grant in conjunction with the Parks and Recreation Department to deal with those issues there at that particular park. If you haven't gone there, it's a dead end off of coming from Abernathy Creek onto John Adams Creek. It's a nice and natural area, and the Abernathy Creek forms an oxbow there, so you're essentially surrounded on 3 sides by the creek. So those are 2 activities that the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council will be involved in terms of parks.
Nice. I don't have anything to report out on. I do want to thank Phil for taking the committee's request to City Commission to have this group, this body represented at executive sessions related to park property. Lisa and I were invited yesterday, in fact, once. So I really appreciate the quick turnaround on that, and I feel like we're represented now. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Phil. I'll echo that. Spending time with the Waterboard Park, I never thought that pulling ivy would be so, actually, in a weird way, fun, because you're destroying something but saving something at the same time. And I've learned how to save a tree all by myself. So spending time over there with the foundation. Also, the Cove, it's looking great. I've been taking my dog down there. I noticed that there's a restoration area. I'm not sure who's working in that, but it's a gated area. I'm not sure who's doing that.
Nearest to the
Clackamas River.
To the park
Clackamas
by the
River.
Clackamas River.
Yeah.
That's part of the code development. In order to build up, they need to do some improvements by code. So that is part of their improvements.
Pretty neat, but looking really good, and people are very much utilizing that area. And the promenade, it's looking really nice. The flowers are coming up, and just a really enjoyable walk over there. So, good, thank you.
The other thing I'll mention, I had an opportunity to reserve a park shelter for next summer, and the system works great online. It was, it worked. There's a calendar there. You can see, you can pull up a list of every shelter that's available, and then for that shelter, you can see the open dates. I got an answer back from staff that it was confirmed within 10 or 15 minutes. The only odd thing is, you have to get an account, which is, I'm fine with that. But in order to get the account, you have to state whether you're male or female and your date of birth, which seemed a little intrusive, unusual, whatever. Anyway, but the system works great.
Great.
I have nothing.
And I have, as you all probably have a copy of this, that we had in our surveying and looking back into some things about Waterboard Park. This is one of the things that was discovered, and you're welcome to keep this copy. It's fun reading. And it also highlights Atkinson Park in there on a few different pages, and there was actually even a master plan for Atkinson Park back in 1952. That's it.
That's great. Okay. Staff reports?
So the recreation report, which you received earlier this week from Denise. Next item is the McLaughlin Promenade. Just giving a little bit of an update. So working with a couple of different community groups that are, it sounds like, planning to move forward with enhancement grant opportunities. One group led by Bill Daniels and Jerry Herman, looking at some improvements on the outside of the historic wall there at the promenade. The other group led by Francesca Anton, who was here earlier, and other representatives of the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, looking at improvements on the interior of the park, looking to do a master plan type of development, more of a planning document for the park. So more information, I'm sure, to come. The McLaughlin Kenema Trail did go to the City Commission just yesterday, on the 21st, and the trail alignment was passed by the City Commission for the first reading of the ordinance. So it will go back before for a second reading in April, and the version that was passed included the route that would take you along 99E instead of going through the properties along Tumwater. So for those of you that have been following the same path, it will go along the VFW parking lot, down the ramp, along Tumwater, and then up 299 for a short stretch through the PGU property, and then continue on to Old Kenema Park. So there were property owners at the first presentation in February that were concerned about the trail running through their properties along Tumwater before it met with the PGU property, and this route now carries them on the frontage of 99 and then into the PGU property.
Would that be a permanent trail,
would
or
be
is that
the-
subject to change at some point in time if property owners were willing to?
That's the permanent alignment. If we had property owners that were interested in doing a little bit of a different alignment, I'm sure it's something that could be readopted by commission. But once it is adopted, it'll be formally adopted into the Trails Master Plan, the Transportation Systems Plan, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, all being ancillary documents to the comprehensive plan for the city. So it would have to go back through the ordinance adoption process.
Is there a barrier that's going to be put up between 99 and? There is, okay.
Yeah, so safety definitely is a top priority, and there would be a barrier of some sort, which would be worked through with ODOT to make sure that it safely separates cars from pedestrians and bicyclists.
Yeah, they showed examples of possibilities in the plan. Nothing was concrete, unintended.
Nothing was concrete?
Except for me.
It wasn't concrete. I hope there's something that's more sightly than Jersey barriers. I mean, I'd like to
That's what
see a
they
barrier that is somewhat attractive.
Yeah, you're not the only one that shares that thought. Yeah, I would agree completely.
I think ODOT kind of did too, so.
The only other item I have for staff reports is that the library park naming is scheduled to go before commission on April 18th. So has not yet formally been adopted by City Commission, and City Commission will have the opportunity to hear the recommendation of PRAC to name Library Park Library Park. So, more to come on that.
It's a long story.
Okay, future agenda items?
Chris, I have one general topic. It kind of came up with the Buena Vista tour. And maybe others could help me, but it's been several years, but traditionally we would go through and do a park tour in the summer every 2 or 3 years, and I don't think we've done that in a while, and just kind of brainstorming through the summer. The other problem we've had in the past couple of years is we take the month of August off, but PRAC members in July miss the concert in the park. So what I would propose is considering doing a park tour in June, because that's our longest daylight night, and then take July off and then meet again in August, because then it doesn't conflict with concerts. And do the Buena Vista House, as part of the tours, some of the highlights you could even touch just as we drive by again to Old Kenema Park and the trail up to the park site for Glen Oak and Filbert Run, and some of the key areas. See the property at the cemetery. We haven't been up there since that property's been purchased, and maybe construction will be underway by that point. Some of those highlighted areas usually work well. Jonathan Waverly, I think, drove the bus last time. And so, I don't know, were you here when we did the last one?
We have not done a site tour since I've been here.
So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I wasn't here last time.
And I did have a conversation with John somewhat recently and let him know that all the other division heads have given presentations this last year, and that we looked at probably a June date. So have that a little bit in the works, but definitely looking forward to probably trying to get a confirmation on ideal timing for the group, because it will take a couple of hours.
A couple hours tour, you say? Or
Couple hours tour, yeah.
3 hour tour.
3 hour tour.
Maybe we can plan a couple of tours, because I think a good many of us have not seen the smaller parks that we have in Oregon City, and we have several of them. And I think it'd be good to actually take a tour of some of our, acre and a half or less parks that we do have in Oregon City. There's one not too far from where I live that is kind of a natural area, but there, I think you could have used some more tree plantings and so forth. But so everybody gets a feeling for what we do have in total.
Yeah, and that's where I've seen them is in those previous tours. You know, otherwise, I would never know. And my suggestion, to be clear, is to do this tour in lieu of the June meeting here, because we will have a quorum present, so it's considered a meeting anyway. So, and that's how we've done it in the past. Usually we'd meet here at 6 o'clock. There have been times that we would order sandwiches and they'd be on the bus when we get there. 6 o'clock, we're about back here about 8:30, 8:45, and just see some highlighted places.
Yeah.
And sometimes people at meeting before will put out, and I want to see this if we can, or that, kind of like Doug's saying, in particular. So then they'll try to route that as such.
Yeah, we can definitely do that in lieu of and everyone's already hopefully has that on their schedule as it is. So that'd be great.
It works.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we went to Waterboard Park on our last tour.
You're right.
And I think it's important that folks see what's happening there. I mean, as far as the road condition. And
I agree, Roger.
We did that 2 tours ago, and we actually got off the bus at the top and walked down, and the bus met us at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
That's perfect.
I don't want to do it the other
Not
way.
start at the bottom.
Yes. No, start at the top.
Okay. Any other future agenda items?
I had a suggestion, or I brought it up last time, and I'm sure that it isn't complete, or we'd have it on the agenda, at least the start of it, and that's the master planning for the waterfront parks, specifically Clackamat.
Yeah, it's still in process, so it probably won't be until closer to summer.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have one other item that we're trying to get on the agenda for next month is a presentation from Metro and Oregon City staff on the Newell Creek development. So
Great.
hopefully we'll get that nailed down.
Okay. Anything else? All right. We'll adjourn. Our next meeting is April 26th.